Prayer and pledge we can, then we'll start the meeting. We could just have a moment of silence, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that we live in a free country. We know as on 9/11 brought our country together, and we just like for our country to stay that together, and we're just so thankful that was able to get through that era. Now I ask that you put your blessing upon our city, put a blessing upon this meeting. Just help us have a great meeting, and just we're so thankful to live in a country where we can have a democracy. In your name we pray. Amen. Ask everybody to stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll get started by opening our beer board public hearing. We have Axes and Ales, a beer license. We have Whiskey Throttle Barbecue, and then Pop's Plate. It's open for any comment. Anyone have any comments on that? All right, if nobody has any comments, we'll move forward with the meeting. We'll close the beer board meeting. All right, we'll start with ordinance 425, beer permit for Axes and Ales, Whiskey Throttle, and Pop's Plate. We don't have background checks back on everyone, so we can do what we were talking about was doing a temporary. Can we get that back?
Right, and it'll be passed subject to successful completion and good report on the national background check that we're now doing for our beer permit.
They've already passed everything local. So. Have any questions before we pass it?
Mayor, I had left one, there was a typo on my part under subsection 8-108. I added into the requirements to maintain any permit issued under this section a subsection K, which is right above 8-109. And that was from our old ordinance, or our old code, and it's interference with public health, safety, and morals prohibited. And this is straight out of our old municipal code. It says no permit authorizing the sale of beer will be issued when such business would cause congestion of traffic or would interfere with schools, churches, or other places of public gathering, or would otherwise interfere with public health, safety, and morals. In no event will a permit be issued authorizing the storage, sale, or manufacture of beer at places within 300 feet of any school, church, or other such place of public gathering. This distance, or the distance, shall be measured in a straight line between the nearest points on the respective property lines. That's the exact verbiage out of our existing municipal code. I had just forgot to put that in when I was drafting up all the language in this new ordinance.
Gotcha. All right, if you're ready to, we can approve these three businesses permit. See a motion and a second.
So much.
Have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we'll move on to opening up the public hearing. We don't have it yet. This is the last reading. The public hearing for the new beer permit application, which you just talked about that. Does anyone have any questions about the new permit process or the new permit? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll close that. We'll move on to ordinance 426, Title 18, Water and Sewer. Public hearing for that. Mark, I'll let you touch on that one to explain what that one is.
Mayor, we were approached by Jasper Materials, and it's located down in our industrial zone off of Industrial Boulevard. This is about a brownfield cleanup situation that they have participated in and done for several years now. And the request, they are considering an expansion of that plant. and they approached the town to pass an ordinance that does not permit residents down there to use wells for drinking water, supplying their animals water, anything that would involve personal consumption, either by an animal or a human. They could still, residents in that area could still use a well to wash cars, clean the house, do things like that, as long as they're not consuming that water. And the reason that was requested is they're looking at a plant expansion down there of, I think, $2 million, and about 20 new jobs for the city. And the reason they want the town to pass that is so, all this remediation that they did with the brownfield that was there previously, and all their cleanup efforts, they don't want someone coming back and saying, well, we contaminated our well water or something like that. So they've asked us to pass the ordinance. We've reviewed the records. Everyone in that area that is affected is already on city water, so it's not like we're asking them to give up their well or anything like that.
And it's required to be, right?
Yes, and it's required to be within a certain distance. I think it's 1,000 feet that they're required to connect to city water. The city water is available down there, and they're all on city water. So, but this is only applying to our industrial zoned areas. It doesn't apply to any other zone that we have in town, specifically to the industrial areas where the brownfield site is cleaned up.
Anyone have any questions or comments on that? Okay, if no one has questions, we'll move on to ordinance 427, public hearing for Jasper Middle School speed zone. And that was brought to us by the school board, and they were asking us to drop that to
Increase it to 30. Mayor,
15 to
school,
30.
TDOT contacted the school board, Superintendent Griffith, and requested that speed change because in our ordinance defaults, if there's no specified speed zone in the school zone, it's defaults at 15 miles per hour. That's right there coming off 28. It's on the bypass that goes up to the mountain, and TDOT requested that the school board get that speed zone increased to 30 miles per hour because of all of that traffic flow that that's going to the mountain. They've done their studies and they recommended that speed based on the proximity to the intersection and the distance from the school to the bypass, and so that's how that speed got recommended. TDOT asked the school board to approach the town and request the town modify that from 15 to 30 miles per hour.
Haven't heard that. Any comments or concerns with that? Okay, no comments or concerns. We'll close the public hearing on those three. And we will move on to approval of the minutes. You've got the minutes in your packet. I have a motion. And a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, approval of ordinance 425, which will be the new beer permit update. You've heard the changes that Mark talked about.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve? Second. Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, number 9, 426, Title 18, Water and Sewer. You've heard that in the public hearing. Just need a motion and a second to approve that. Have a motion? Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then number 10, approval of ordinance 427, Jasper Middle School speed zone. Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, number 11, amendment of Jasper Municipal Code -1-105. That's an ordinance amending Jasper Municipal Code Section 1-105 related to the compensation of the mayor. We've not been doing this. We talked to the auditors. This is something we've not been doing. We've not changed this, so we've not been doing it. So it's something I need to check the box on. So I brought this before you. We've not been changing anything. We've not raised the pay or anything there. So I need to pass this. This will be our first reading on it. And it's just the compensation that you pay me. Like I say, it's just to check a box.
And
I need a motion and a second. Have a motion? Second. All in favor? And I will abstain from that. All right, number 12, approval of ordinance 429 is the environmental, that's the one we know, environmental restrictive orders. We got that one, I've gone backwards. That is the one. That is the one about the final reading on the, that's the final reading on the deposits, where we're not doing the deposit, we're just taking a non-refundable fee for the,
426 was.
the non-refundable fee for the deposit amount.
On the water meter?
On the water meters, yes, sir, that's what that will be.
Just need a motion.
Motion.
I make it.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 13, approval of ordinance 430. Now, these are first reading on all these in the hearing. These are the first reading. We'll have second reading next month and a public hearing on all of these. Approval of ordinance 430, the bid limit. Mark, I'll let you go into that one a little bit.
Mayor, this was the, you had requested that I look into this, because of our bid limit. Most of the localities around us have a $10,000 bid limit. When the 1982 Purchasing Act got passed, it permitted municipalities to increase their bid limits to $25,000. Our actual bid limit in the town was $5,000. So that was proven to be pretty unworkable because of the price of everything going up so much here recently. It was either requiring emergency purchases or things were getting delayed until the next board meeting before the board could approve them to purchase them. And in some cases, especially with like our water plant and some other areas, that was causing a problem. So researched the procedure, and this will allow the bid limit to be increased to $25,000. We still are required to get 3 competitive bids if possible, but it will speed the process up to allow the mayor to make purchases up to that $25,000 limit with the restrictions of the 3 competitive bids if that's possible, and not require either special call meetings or emergency purchases. Anything that exceeds the $25,000 limit, the board still has to vote on it, approve it. So this just increases the limit to give the town more flexibility for situations where, the mayor's having to, put a pump, or restore a pump, or replace a pump, or all those situations where, just need that flexibility so that he can go ahead and make that purchase and without having to wait a month until the board, the next meeting to approve it and then make the purchase, which, especially with some of the materials that we're having trouble getting in, sometimes that process is delayed by several months already. And so some of our needs have been pretty critical, and they've been, those purchases have been made on an emergency basis. This just ups the limit so you don't have to have quite so many emergency purchases, and gives the mayor a little bit more flexibility to, to get those bids and make the purchases up to the $25,000 limit if it's necessary.
Motion we approve.
Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Number 14 is a resolution for a grant. In your package, you'll see there is the public partner entities has a grant out there. You just need to get an approval to apply for this grant. It's a 50-50 match. They give us $2,500, we match $2,500, and this can go towards cybersecurity or cameras at one of our facilities, or something like that. And this is a guaranteed grant.
And isn't the state requiring that we do a lot of this?
You are. Cybersecurity especially, and it's getting very expensive. I mean, just one of the programs alone we use is $16,000. This could offset that cost. Exactly.
Make a motion.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, number 15, Mr. Stanfield.
Mr. Gabbard.
Mr. Gabbard? Yes, sir. Well, that's the board, sir.
Mayor, think I'd be glad to address, as I understand, to make sure I'm understanding the issue correctly, is a question regarding Oak Lawn Drive.
Yes, sir.
And whether or not that is a city street or still a private street.
Yes, sir.
I only had a few days to do a little research into this, but I haven't had an opportunity to share it with Mr. Raines, so I'll be glad to do so. But I think the critical issue for the town to consider is the doctrine of implied dedication. And I know the town has an ordinance that was adopted in 2013 that requires a specific process to be followed. It does require formal dedication, such as a deed of dedication.
Yes, sir.
Formal acceptance by this board before the street or whatever is taken in and actually declared to be a city street. The doctrine of implied dedication looks at a lot of other factors. And I think one of the things that's critical to remember here is this subdivision was approved in 1991. And most of the lots, if not all the lots, were sold within a year of that initial dedication. Since that time, there are water lines and sewer lines that are located within the right-of-way of Oak Lawn. The town's garbage truck has used that. I haven't lived in Oak Lawn for about 5 years, so I have some experience with that. And the street's been open to the public continuously since it was built. Not just to the residents there, but for any of you that have ever been there or lived there, you know there's probably 400 families every Halloween that come in here and trick or treat. So the public obviously uses it as the town has used it. So I think with respect to that street, and there are going to be some others too that are likely going to fall into that same category, I think the doctrine of implied dedication is going to show that that street has been a city street since basically the time that it was created. There is no formal deed of dedication. You have to concede that. There's never been one to the town.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, I went back actually to the late 1960s and checked all the recorded documents from that point to today, and I didn't find any deeds of dedication recorded to the town of Jasper. Doesn't mean there aren't any. I'm just saying they weren't recorded. So it could very well have been some over the years that were done, given to the town and not recorded. That included some that have been done since then, like the pre-petition of Gamble subdivision, what's Heritage Estates, I think would probably fall in the same category, as would Luke's Landing next door to Oak Lawn. So that would be, I'm not here in an adversarial capacity, I want you all to understand that. I'm just here as an advocate for them to sort of explain their position.
Oh, yes, sir.
And the way I think if a court were to look at it, that those would be factors that they would take into consideration. The other thing too is, and I think this is critical, and I'll be glad again to share this information with Mr. Raines. This street has not been taxed as private property since the early 1990s. It's shown as tax exempt on the county's tax rolls, so they haven't paid taxes on it, which is another indication that it's likely public property. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you all may have.
You want to get information on that, and then we can make a decision.
Well, I mean, I had had a chance to look at the implied dedication doctrine that Billy's talking about lately, but I will say this, Oak Lawn is not the only street where we have this situation. And, the mayor and all the staff have researched extensively through the minutes and were never able to find where this was dedicated to the town, which, as Billy knows, he's the county attorney.
So we've got like loose land and those, we've got those where they've been
they
dedicated.
have been dedicated, but
There's no deed, there's no formal dedication found.
well, I mean, but you know the procedure. I mean, I'm relying on the procedure where they approach the board of mayor and alderman and ask the town to take over the street. You know that better than me, Billy. You've been doing this a lot longer than me. So what I'm telling the town is, if you do this for Oak Lawn, then you have several other subdivisions where proper procedure was not followed, and they're going to be right behind Oak Lawn, coming in here saying, "Hey, you did it for Oak Lawn, you got to do it for us."
Some of those streets are not up to standard.
Some of them are not up to standard, as I understand it. The Oak Lawn Street has some issues with it. So whatever decision that the board of mayor and alderman make, is you're not just making it for Oak Lawn at this point. You'll be making it for the other subdivisions, that are throughout the town. And I understand Billy's argument. He's clarifying that, look, it is public use. That's true. But just because it's open to public use doesn't mean that it's either a county or a city road. We've had other situations in the county where that same argument has been made, and public has been allowed to traverse that street, but it was not deemed to be a county road, or the county road is the most recent specific example I can think of. So, true, it's public use, our garbage trucks go up and down it, you know, we provide services. Now, as far as like the water lines and things like that, you know, there is an implied easement, and we haven't in our actual contracts for the water services. People have to agree to let us have an easement to provide those services. So that doesn't necessarily have to go down a public street. It may go down through the middle of the field, it may go through someone's backyard, it may go through the sidelines. So, you know, we have to have that access in order to provide that service. And by them, you know, utilizing that service and signing up for it, then they agree to give us those easements. So I don't know that you're gonna find anything. I'm not saying there's anything out there may be, but I doubt we're gonna find anything that says, you know, this is the public road, the water sewer easement goes down the north side of it. We can't even find where, you know, the actual street itself, that anyone ever came before the board and asked us to take it over. So I mean, and I have all the respect in the world for Billy. He's been doing this a lot longer than me, and, you know, I rely on his advice a lot, especially if I got a question about municipal or county law. But I just want the board to realize, whatever decision you make, you're making it for more than Oklahoma. There are other subdivisions out there where we have very similar problems that are gonna be lined up, if you say that the Oklahoma, you know, is a public street, it's the town of Jasper City.
I think maybe we should have a work session for this, so we can research this, that you do your due diligence, make sure.
And
We wanna do the right thing
I'll
for
get with Billy and we'll discuss.
We want to do the right thing for the citizens, but we also want to do the right thing for the taxpayers too. This can open up a whole big.
Well, just one thing I would add to that, and again, this is something that Mark and I can discuss, and be glad to share everything I have with it.
Yeah.
Under the doctrine of implied dedication, there's one other critical factor that I think comes into play here that would differentiate it from the county road situation. I know exactly what he's referring to. He and I talked about that other situation many times. But it all has to do, and the case law is very clear on this, with the intent of the party. In this particular case, on the plat itself, there is a certificate signed off on by both of the owners of the subdivision that says they dedicate streets to public use. And then it was signed off on as a companion certificate on the plat, signed off on by the then mayor of Jasper, that basically says they're accepted, you know, for that.
We do that on all plants, before even the year.
Yeah,
correct?
that's a standard stamp that's on all.
Right.
And in many cases, you know, when that signature is obtained, the roads are not in place, they're not finalized, and that allows them to proceed with the subdivision, the construction, and it also allows them to proceed with sales of the lots, which is one critical aspect. So typically, sometimes you know, bonds are put in place to make sure that if the developer doesn't bring the street up to standards, the town or you know, has the money to go in there and finish what the developer was supposed to do. And we're aware of the situation with Mayor Hampton's signature because Mr. Stamper brought that to our attention.
It was mentioned in the notes a couple of times about Oakmont, about some flooding issues. That was mentioned in the notes, but there never was any kind of dedication in there.
You know, I mean, I think all of the people that were involved at that time are now deceased. And so, you know, we don't know what their intent was. It may have been exactly as Tommy and Billy have said. We just don't know. All we have to rely on, you know, is our town minutes. And it's just quite frankly was never addressed to the board of Mayor and Alderman by either Mayor Hampton or anybody else that we can find. So,
Well, I think what's critical is the intent of the property owner, not so much the intent of the town.
Right.
I think that's what the case law says.
Okay.
Again, that's something he and I can talk about. The second other point that I want to make sure everybody's aware of, you know, those of you that have been on this board for a while probably know this, but the state passed what's referred to in planning as the Destiny statute a few years ago. That basically says if you're doing a development, then you are vested with the rights that exist in the regulations as of the time that you're submitting your plats for approval. So in their case, 1991 regulations would have been what they were obligated to follow. And all of our regulations countywide, county, Kimball, Jasper, South Pittsburgh, everybody we're all familiar with, have changed significantly since then. You know, technology's changed a lot of that, growth has changed a lot of that. And so standards back then in 1991 were significantly different than they are now. And there is no state law, there is no state statute or rule per se that has to do with dedication of a road for a county or city. have the benefit of that, so it's kind of almost on a case-by-case basis. But I'll be glad to get with Mark, and we can.
Let's put a work session together, and we can make sure we do our homework, do the right
Thanks for
thing.
listening to me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Number 16, inquiry bids for concrete for the green space. We have been wanting to check on doing concrete, stamped concrete for that green space over here, so we want to put out some feelers and see, kind of get some bids and see what kind of money we're talking about to do that, especially with the ice skating rink coming, things like that. Just make it look good. So need approval and.
Well, obviously, that's gonna be more $25,000.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we need approval to move forward and just put that out in the paper and try to get some bids.
I'll make that motion.
Maybe something we can't even afford, but, so we have a motion. Second, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, mayor reports, I don't have anything down for this one. So we'll move on to reports, we'll start with the library. Library, you got the report, you don't? She's got, total circulation, 3,200 for the month of August. People count was 2527. Let's see, total circulation for the year was 7,392. Total people count so far, that's got to be a typo, that's not right. Active library cards are 9,008. There's 6,983 adult bars and 2,023 children's bars. She's had monthly programs at the Jasper Town Meeting, Planning Commission, City Court, and Friends of the Library. A lot of good stuff going on at the library. Can't thank them enough. We'll move on to parks and alleys.
I'll start with streets and sanitation.
All right.
We continue mowing, bush hogging, patching, and brush pickup. We cleaned up the median on Highway 28, kind of opened that up, cleaned it up. Cleaned up brush on Highway 41 on the right of way in the same area. Continue work on cleaning up the fairgrounds property. Hung new crosswalk signs at Bexley Pack and 7th Street. Thanks to the mayor for the help on that. And we changed out 27 stop signs. And we also assisted in the painting of the water warehouse. As far as Parks and Rec, fall ball is in full swing. They will play Mondays and Tuesdays through October 10th. And we also have a tournament scheduled for September 30th. That's the middle school tournament. Then October 7th and 8th for a softball tournament. Dates to remember, they're coming up. The Jack-O-Lantern Jamboree will be October 28th. The Veterans Day Parade will be November 11th at 1 p.m. The ice skating ring will open around November 27th. That's not a dead set date. We may open earlier than then, but we'll see what happens. And that'll run through the first of the year. And the Christmas parade will be December 9th at 6 p.m. Animal control, we have 14 calls this month. We picked up 7, and we have 5 in the pound this time.
Justin, can you go back on this crosswalk sign?
Yep.
I bet you half the people in this room don't even know there's a crosswalk there.
They will now,
Yeah, it's obvious.
because that's one of the things I talked to them about getting it done.
The reason we did that, we counted the other day, 20-something kids that cross that from the middle school to go to the high school, or high school vice versa. And state law is that they stop.
And now, the way it's posted, they can be roped for it. The way it was, you couldn't theoretically, because it wasn't advising them what the state law was and didn't have the stop signs up. Now, they can be roped.
Well, I'll admit, I'm so used to going up down that road and not going to look for those signs.
We have
That's why
these
they're
white things that.
Getting neon green ones now.
Yeah, that's right, green. We have these white reflectors that are gonna go down, but they're not in yet. And we're looking for some, there's 2 companies we're waiting on pricing for these flashing, that solar powered flash at the top, and we're just waiting to get those.
Kind of like what they have at R&R.
Yeah.
That says red, except these are just gonna.
The yellow.
Well, I just wanted it out there that, things are going to change on Main Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, absolutely.
Think it'll slow down some?
Now that's,
Mr. Huff, you wanna do fire?
Yes, sir. We had a total of 8 calls last month, and as you can see on your reports this month and last month, the rescue calls have went up in the city, and we've run a lot of mutual aid also. And that's what I've asked for. That's what I'm going to ask for with Ms. Gray on the grant that you guys approved is new extrication equipment. And I'd also like to get permission the Squatchy Valley Cares is 100% grant. I was gonna see if it was feasible to get 3, with the money if we can get that, get 3 iPads and put in engine 1, 3, and 4 for a lot of the county calls that we go and give us something, directions. Because if we get sent to Egypt Holler on a structure fire, a lot of these guys don't know what Egypt Holler is.
One way in, one way out.
Yes, and if I could get permission to do that, and I'd like to talk to you guys about the Assistance to Firefighters grant. That's a 5% matching grant. I have to be granted permission to do that. So if you guys see feasible to put in for that, I'd like to, but you have to see feasible to do that. Just so we get 90,000, that'd be a $4,500 to $5,000 match.
That's good money. We do those one at a time. What's the first one you said? The
Squatchy Valley Cares.
Can we get a motion to approve the Squatchy Valley Cares grant? Make a motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And then what's the second?
Assistance to Firefighter grant.
Assistant firefighter grant. Motion. Second. Motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. Miss Ann Gray's also helping with those too.
Excellent grant writer.
She's great.
Absolutely.
That's all I've got. Thank you guys.
Perfect. I'll read Mr. Mason's report. Have your glasses. Let's see, we've got total number of violations 32, number of calls for service 335, number of roadway crashes, property damage 7, number of roadway crashes with fatality 1, and number of private property crashes 9. And then we wanted to cover too, we talked about the golf carts that is heated back up again. We've got more. I think we put 3 complaints today alone on the golf cart issue. The warning period is kind of over. So if they catch you now, it is, you would have to take them to juvenile, and the golf cart has to be towed, correct?
Right, we can write them a citation, irregardless, the golf cart will be towed to whatever record service picks it up, and we can either cite the child for driving a non-authorized vehicle on the road, or we can take them to the house and tell their parents, look, they were on it, they've been told. But it's obvious that just warning them or saying taking it home is not working.
Yeah.
Because they're right back out there. I just wish more people would call the police department instead of calling other people. Because I'm not going to find out until it's later and done past. Where if they've called the police, we can get right there, stop it.
I mean, what Keith is saying is correct. They can't let them leave.
Yeah, you can't let them leave if it's a minor. Let's make sure everybody hears that. You can't let them leave if it's a minor.
Yeah.
Now, whether you issue a citation to juvenile court or take them home to mom and dad, that's officer discretion, but they cannot leave in that golf cart. If they go out and get injured or injure someone else, we just can't have that kind of liability. And we went over the rules and regulations many times. It's 16-year-old or older, they have a valid Class D license. They can drive the golf cart, go on the city streets. If they're under that, if they don't have a Class D license, then they're not permitted to operate that golf cart on city streets.
All right, we'll open it up to public comment. Anybody have any comments? Okay, yes, sir. State your name and.
Robert Gunninger.
Yes, sir.
667 Glover Seal. It was concerning the video. I had talked to you on the phone.
Yes, sir.
About the officer punching the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got freedom.
Uh-huh.
We got freedom. The guy don't have to show his ID. Ain't nobody can convince me that wasn't what it was about. But I just have a problem because within 20 seconds, he escalates instead of de-escalates. Or the officer's going to do a de-escalating training.
We do it, de-escalating training. My officer asked that gentleman several times to exit the vehicle because my officers assumed there was an AR laying in the back seat.
That's his Second Amendment right to have that AR in the back of
Our safety is also required.
Billy, his safety, he put that live under his, it started
I mean,
asking
it's
for
not
ID.
going to be an argument. We turned it over to the DA's office.
And I told him what the outcome would be before it ever went there.
That's as far as we can go with it.
Well, it ain't over because I've seen it.
Well, it's over as far as we're
As far
concerned.
as y'all are concerned, but it's, when you got a bad apple, and you keep throwing him back in the bush, the rest of the apples.
What are you insinuating?
I'm insinuating he's a bad cop. He needs,
Well, what are you insinuating it's over? Or it's not over?
it's not over. I sent that video to ACLU.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You should have showed the whole body
I
count
showed
video.
the whole body. I sent them all up.
Okay,
I think
that's
we're
what we
good. I think we're
wanted.
good there. Anybody else have any public comment? Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring out?
Like most we adjourn.
Motion? Second? All in favor? Aye. That's right. There you go. We'll move into water. Let's do our water board meeting. All right, we'll call this water board to order.
I said, I wanna go out
In your packet, we have your minutes, approval for minutes. 16 on the back page of that. Yeah.